My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, I want to document right here. First of all, this is the entity that's engaged in federal stalking. The entity has the fake sun directly over this roof at 10:13 a.m. and it's 9:13 a.m. So the entity is covering up the fake sun. That's would be on the same street, by the way, after 4 and 6 p.m. And this is what the entity is using to engage in creating earthquakes while I'm lying in the bed. That's sensational activity. These are demons that are engaged in a sex offensive monitoring, and they're doing so as employees at the venue. targeting, just like you saw the engineer light. They're targeting, just like you see the fake sun as I'm documenting. 9NBJ715 is also gang stalking with them, stalking in the path with light. And the entity is doing so with regard to monitoring a woman. These are sex offenders. And so is RAMADA by WYNDHAM. And pushing that cart, pushing the housekeeping cart, none of that creates earthquakes in rooms or in buildings, okay? In the same way that the sun doesn't sit over one address from 10 a.m. until after 6 p.m., from 10 a.m. until 12:52 p.m., from 10 a.m. until 4:09 p.m., where I'm documenting that pattern of conduct. The entity was doing the same thing as I documented video yesterday. That's a means of targeting these demons. The objective is monitoring, and they are engaged. This is surveillance over here. This is a demon that's stalking in the path, maintaining light around the hotel room. The entity is engaging in what is covering up the fake sun and engaging what is surveillance of me while I'm inside of this hotel room. License 16406H2, license 76465U1, 9TXK920, 3LAE411, license 9TXK502. RAMADA by WYNDHAM's engaged in harassment by the federal government. RAMADA by WYNDHAM's engaged in a sex offense committed by the federal government, and they're all engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. That's why, by the way, the sun is never going to be here, including not at 10:13 a.m., and the entity has the fake sun right over the roof, covering it up while they're monitoring evidence. And the entity is engaging in what is a pattern of conduct, which is already captured, first of all, at every WYNDHAM venue, Days Inn by WYNDHAM, La Quinta Inn, and Baymont Inn, where the entity is targeting with the Ontario Police Department as well, while I've documented WYNDHAM. But La Quinta Inn by WYNDHAM, there is one right across the street. They're gang stalking as well. But the La Quinta in particular is the one I have in Hesperia, California, where there would never be any sun over RAMADA by WYNDHAM at 1841 East G Street, while the entity is covering it up. This is the pattern of conduct, the malice of the serial killers who engage in monitoring before they commit murder. It's at Ever Home Suites by, at Ever Home Suites at 1820 East G Street. That's a sex offender monitoring a woman, all right, while the entity is targeting inside of my room with amplified audible activity and sensational activity. That's a method of stalking in the path with light. These are the same sex offenders under the evening and afternoon fake sun. Gang stalking immigrants are going to be deported. This is Title 18 while he's using his cell phone. And he's pacing. And engineer light is still present, okay? That's P.O.C. These are sex offenders monitoring also when you're in a private space, monitoring your genitalia, monitoring when you're using the toilet, monitoring when you're taking a shower, monitoring everything that you're watching on television, monitoring what you're doing on your cell phone. This is the entity that's engaged in monitoring the city of Ontario, the state of California. Okay, that's P.O.C. You're looking at iterations of stalking with light in the same exact engineered environment. The entity is covering up the fake sun, which is directly over me, as I've shown the pattern of conduct. It's not deviating now while the entity covers it up. The entity is engaged in monitoring evidence. Okay, this is relevant to the P.O.C., which is a threat to your life, while serial killers monitor evidence of their stalking you and try to cover up that evidence. This is directly probative of that pattern of conduct of engaging in surveillance on the venue of the internet as well. It is currently 9:17 a.m. This is P.O.C. at 1841 East G Street. So I just want to show you. The entity is maintaining engineer light inside of the venue. This is light that is illuminating. The trajectory of that light is illuminating inside of the room. So I just want to show you. This is the P.O.C. coming in underneath the covered structure. This is all engineer light. I am covering it up, but this is all engineer light. All right, this is P.O.C. The entity is engaged. They're still in engineer light while the entity covers up the fake sun. Engineer light is always present, including at nightfall. And those are demons, and that's, again, the gang stalking immigrant population. That's also managing the hotel. 1841 East G Street is engaged in the sex offense. While I'm in the bed, the entity is targeting, creating what is earthquake. Again, shaking and vibrating the bed like they're doing under my feet while I'm standing on the floor. They're doing so at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 8:30 in the morning, while they're engaging in what is monitoring in rooms 317, that's stalking in the path, and also 318, they are engaged in criminal monitoring. This is P.O.C. It is 9:18 a.m. This is documentation of harassment, terrorism. The perpetual sex offense is underway. The entity is engaging in what is monitoring in a private space, and this is all state action. P.O.C.
And he delivered them from their distress.
Just so that you can see the magnified size of my shadow, this is engineer light.
And the shadow of death. And burst.
This is all engineer light. I have multiple shadows. This is P.O.C. This is not the product of a cloudy day, a covered structure. The light, the trajectory of the light is showing the same exact engineer light. The entity, again, thinks that it's crafty, covering up the fake sun. The fake sun is relevant for showing you who is being targeted, showing you that the entity is engaged in surveillance. Covering up the fake sun does not remove the ongoing demonic environment, which is relevant to engineered light. And the sun, by the way, will never be present from 10:13 until after 6 p.m. at one address. Not only is it present until after 6 p.m., remember, it's aimed in perfect alignment with my hotel room. The entity aiming engineered light, dynamic all over the walls inside. That's never deleted or erased from the record. This is the entity that's monitoring evidence, and that's also relevant to federal prison. P.O.C. It is September 2nd. It's Tuesday morning. It's 11:05 a.m. And the video that you listen to is the evidence of criminal surveillance by the state of California. The government is not only gang stalking, engaging in criminal surveillance, the government is going to be prosecuted for keeping the evidence of its criminal conspiracy to commit murder by targeting an American citizen against their human and constitutional rights by keeping that evidence under surveillance, which is relevant regarding covering up a fake sun. The fake sun that you'll see directly over the top of my head at what is 1841 East G Street. Remember yesterday at 11, the entity has the fake sun over American Inn over my window, where it was at a 7:20 in the morning. The entity has the fake sun over 1841 East G Street, where they were covering up the fake sun pursuant to criminal surveillance in what is a demonic environment. The employees, I'm capturing images right now, they're monitoring while they're walking in and out of employee entrances, and the fake sun moves from being over my room 316 to being over me at what is that entrance, these side doors where the employees, the gang stalking immigrants who are monitoring my vagina, pacing outside of my room, creating what is ongoing activity with regard to my nudity. These are sex offenders that engage, Donald Trump is not lying about. They are engaged in what is sexual violence. They are rapists, they're murderers, they're criminals, they're stalking, and they're doing so on behalf of the government. 9KGZ121, 6TJG251, 5FKJ388, 9KCZ089. The entity sharing in what is sexual violence together as an entity, and doing so with regard to what is the current time, 11:06 a.m., sex offenders of all races that are engaging in what is invading the privacy of a woman while she's indisposed inside of that hotel room, while the demons are engaged in what is the evidence of targeting. No earthquake is being created while you're pushing a cart outside of the room. No sun is going to be over 755 North Euclid Avenue outside of my hotel room at American Inn. And then the entity have that fake sun on G Street as I walk down this street, which was in the direction east on G Street, where that fake sun remained throughout the afternoon into the evening, where the entity is also at the same time, another angle of analysis, the entity has the fake sun remaining outside of my hotel room right now as I'm capturing video yesterday morning. This is where the entity is covering up the fake sun. That's the entity that engages in that. Covering up the fake sun is engaging in what is, oh, now everything is cloudy. If that was the natural environment that I captured outside of the window of American Inn yesterday, then you would see the sun in a distance. It doesn't mean that it's a cloudy day. It doesn't mean that there's no sun. This is the entity that is stalking with a fake sun. All right, Life Water right now is monitoring. They're engaging what Vactor was engaging in. They're engaging what FedEx was engaging in. A license 4RN3950, monitoring my vagina, sex offenders, co-conspirators to murder. This is the commercial engagement in federal group stalking, monitoring, and the fake sun you'll see over my head and far from what is my room 316, where RAMADA by WYNDHAM is engaging in stalking, monitoring, surveilling, and violating the privacy and terrorizing and harassing a patron and an American citizen. Okay, it's P.O.C. Good morning, Carrie. Hi. I'm from room 316. I need to check out. Here's my key card. Erica Spencer.
316, right?
Right, 316.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much.
Can I get a receipt, please?
Yes.
How long does it take for you guys to refund the deposit? You guys held it for a long time last time.
You pay card is long time, 7 to 10 days.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes Labor Day, 3 days like holidays, sometimes Saturday, Sunday, sometimes that's why people pay cash.
Oh, okay.
Next day they get it.
All right, asking your name is audible activity. The entity knows who you are while the fake sun's over your room, while the fake sun's remaining over me walking through the parking lot, while the employees are targeting inside of that room, while the government is targeting while you're inside of that room at that venue, while the entity keeps a fake sun over Euclid Avenue and G Street with regard to all the rest of the nation, all the rest of the world. This is the entity that knows your name, and Harry is monitoring, okay? That's a demon. That's also mental illness manifested. Thank you. It is currently 11:09 a.m. The entity has the fake sun over American in my hotel room yesterday. And then I proceed to document on video the same plaza where I reminded you about what's not over Tracy Banks' apartment, where the Ontario police are gang stalking. This is the entity that prosecutes itself while it stalks under a fake sun. And this is what Life Water is aiding us, monitoring, anticipating my, this is the demons that are tracking your steps. As I walk into the lobby, that's the significance of Life Water being on the curb with the method of light activity. Big picture, the impossibility, like I stated before, the impossibility that the sun is over Las Vegas, Nevada, over my head at the same time of year is letting you know the pattern of conduct that Life Water is sharing with regard to monitoring, and also the mental illness of the demons that are engaging in this psychopathic pattern of conduct. 4MHD 965. This is the entity that's stalking at 12:32 and 12:52 p.m. by the Ontario Police using helicopters to terrorize 8JTJ 948. The demons that sounded helicopter during my video that I captured after 5 p.m. yesterday, reminding you about that same terrorist organization conspiring my murder by gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library at the same time under the fake sun over my head. 776518L, I believe. 9NIL250. And under no circumstances is the sun going to be over me at the same sidewalk when I arrived here in the afternoon. That's, remember, we're the racist homosexual. This is a gay woman who's obsessed with my vagina, who's stalking me, but is also hostile toward me. And that's what, because she doesn't want proof that she's a homosexual, that she's stalking a black woman, that she's a co-conspirator to murder, that she's a psychopath and a demon, while I'm at 1801 East G Street, remember, in the afternoon. And the fake sun is over me while I'm looking at that same address. That's the pattern of conduct that Life Water is sharing in. Those are businesses that are engaging in a P.O.C. National Crane is engaged in monitoring. They're in position of the location of the building. The entity is keeping, and this is all relevant context because of the fake sun being over me, in the same position where I'm encountering the racist sex offender that is engaged in gang stalking and harassing me while you're being documented. That's the government that's harassing you, by the way. At 1801 North Euclid Avenue, you'll see the images of the fake sun. It's 11:11 a.m. The entity's on video keeping the fake sun outside of my window of American Inn at 755 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity is indeed keeping the evidence under surveillance. The pattern of conduct that you see FedEx engaging in and Vactor stalking in the middle of the road with a method of flashing of light. This is, again, psychopathic behavior. It is designed to maintain criminal surveillance on communication devices, but this is psychopathic behavior by the demon possessed who maintain methods of flashing light. They do this with regard to the entity that's engaged in acts of violence. The entity engages in light activity. The entity engages in light activity with regard to threatening, communicating threatening intentions. The entity does so pursuant to what is monitoring on communication devices. Okay, it is currently 11:12 a.m. and the context is that the fake sun that's on Euclid Avenue, where it rises and sets, by the way. That's how I'm getting the Upland Police Department and the Chino Police Department and the Ontario Police Department stalking me in helicopter, while that fake sun remains specific to my location, and my location remains on one street. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminal monitoring, which is committed in furtherance of murder. Lone Star Construction is gang stalking. Monitoring with the demons, that includes Life Water, that license plate, and another demon engaged in the same commercial means of monitoring. These are corrupt companies that are sharing in the conspiracy to murder. And this is relevant to the criminal prosecution that occurs in essentially civil court and criminal court, because you're going to litigate with regard to the criminal activity that is in furtherance of murder, and furtherance of what is terrorism and psychological torture, while businesses like Lone Star, license 6606N3, are engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct. This is surveillance that Lone Star is engaging in, just maintaining presence in the path. And their presence in the path is relevant to being across the street from where I'm at. And you'll see the fake sun that is over my room. You'll see the engineer light that's on the walkway on the floor. When I captured video yesterday after 5 p.m., that light activity is maintained on that floor. Again, that's only while I'm there. And it remains, so the entity has it over the walkway. After 5 p.m., it's still there, evidence of stalking with a fake sun. And that's not sunlight either. The entity is engaging what is an illusion. And it's an unintelligent illusion as well. All right, so this is, again, the demons that practice witchcraft are very stupid. That's all that means. And you're breaking that down. The fake sun is not the explanation for the light that's appearing underneath a covered structure like a covered walkway where there will be shade. The fake sun is also adjacent to buildings, which is still, again, engaging what is light that is shooting horizontally from the sun as opposed to sunlight that comes down from the sun. And the sun is not beside buildings. The sun is way up in the sky above us. This is, again, the unintelligent illusion where the demons are clearly targeting me, and they're doing so because they have conspired murder, and that includes Life Water, Lone Star Construction, that includes RAMADA by WYNDHAM, that includes all the demons that are working for those companies as well. That's the identification of 2 third parties. License 9FOY663. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while they are monitoring evidence. That's the relevance of keeping a fake sun while demons are stalking, okay? And that's all that they're doing. The entity is engaging in what is that unlawful threat. While you analyze the stalker, you're going to prosecute for the unlawful threat that is inherent to the harassment and terrorism inherent to gang stalking. License 9SMX892, 9BKP864, license plate 0233. I can't really see that license plate. But Everhome Suites is gang stalking while the entity is maintaining criminal monitoring by demons wearing hard hats. They're engaged in surveillance, and they are sex offenders monitoring my vagina. And the employees at RAMADA by WYNDHAM are engaging in targeting with sensational activity while they are all stalking in the path, engaging in surveillance together. All right, and it is going under the name of Everhome Suites, of CHIC-FIL, of Sheraton, license 8PBU796, the entity that's engaging in what is pacing all around while they're monitoring, and a fake sun remains stationary over me all day long, which is relevant as to why it's still at RAMADA by WYNDHAM after 5 p.m. yesterday. And after 6 p.m. I documented last week 8 MLB344 sex offenders stalking a woman, obsessed with that woman's genitalia, the condition of the demon possessed that are gang stalkers. 8 JVB813, 9 AFG565, K685B1. This is Chick-fil-A that is gang stalking with the demons that are pacing on the sidewalk. 9ULE881, and I'll show you the fake sun right over my head where Chick-fil-A is engaged in federal stalking and doing so as a malicious pattern of conduct with the government. While Chick-fil-A, by the way, presents an illusion, oh, they're closed on Sunday in observance of some sort of religious honor, like they're Christ followers or something because they close on Sunday, and that's the day to rest. These are demons that are mocking that idea, and they're engaging in what is a satanic pattern of conduct, which is relevant context. And the sun that was just over my hotel room across the street is no longer over there. All right, and that's also speaking to what would be the rapid movement of sunlight that's on the inside of that walkway, the same sunlight that graduated onto the floor inside of the rooms where all those sex offenders were monitoring in room 317 and 318, sex offenders who are immigrants, gang stalking a woman, keeping her vagina under surveillance, terrorizing and harassing her, especially while you're doing so pursuant to her evidence that you're also hostile to. That's relevant to RAMADA by WYNDHAM targeting, okay? That's relevant to Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is gang stalking on G Street. And the entity they are all gang stalking while the fake sun is in alignment to my hotel room at 6 o'clock in the evening. Chick-fil-A is monitoring. License 77620J3, 8EGX144, 9PAD909, CZJY62, Colorado, 9CXJ761, 5PDL218. These are all co-conspirators to murder. You need to understand that the government engages in targeting someone that they seek to silence, especially while I am now exposing it. And they're engaging in what is a very much heavily invested conspiracy to commit murder. And this is why you have everyone everywhere engaging in it. And this is the reality of surveillance. And there is no privacy. These are not strangers that are engaging in presence in this supernatural environment, and it is so detailed regarding what the entity is doing with the environment, including while trying to cover up a fake sun. The logic is that it's actually a lack of logic, because that presupposes that there was no documentation before American In, but we could just use yesterday as an example. The sun is outside of my window on video, and so what you should do is have the fake sun at a distance in order to demonstrate that you're not targeting someone in conformity to a pattern. But that's not what the demons do, because they are targeting, and they're targeting also evidence, which is federal stalking on the venue of the internet and communication devices. And so then the logic is, the absence of logic rather, is to cover up the whole sky and make it a cloudy day, as opposed to the reality is that it is still bright. It is still a day and a bright day while there's not a sun directly over your head in the sky. These are the demons that are very unintelligent, okay? It includes the demons coming out into the parking lot to engage in that P.O.C. where it is that I'm standing, okay? 87871X2. Demons that are, again, sex offenders monitoring genitalia of a woman, stalking her, conspiring her murder. 8EXK797, and they're doing so, again, under the corruption of Gavin Newsom and Paul Leon. 9UEX1708, MYM916, 9PLJ238, Tracy Banks, okay, who was acted against her own daughter in order to have her murdered while she is assuming my identity, and unpersuasively, unconvincingly. The only reason why no one else has noticed that a 60-some-odd-year-old woman is trying to act like me, and she doesn't look like me, speak like me, act like me, she has no history even similar to me, is because they're engaged in that criminal conspiracy together. That's the entity assuming my identity. Okay, the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring is underway when a demon, when a third party is assuming the identity of me, of the target individual. Kentucky plate G9H760. All right, POC. It is currently 11:20 a.m. This is the entity that's gang stalking Everhome Suites at 1820 East G Street, and so is Chick-fil-A. I'm showing you the fake sun that's over the edge of the building. Let me show you the fake sun that's no longer over the edge of the building. It's over my head while I'm staying at a distance, in the same way that it's not over the RAMADA by WYNDHAM, over my room anymore. It's over me in the parking lot across the street. It was on this same street yesterday when I started walking from American Inn on Euclid Avenue, from the Bank of America. That's all you got to do is go back. This is what I mean by recognizing the pattern, and then you're looking at the greater pattern in the aggregate, because what's happening in 2024, there is no covering up the fake sun today that is going to, under any circumstances, change the direct evidence that Gavin Newsom is engaged in conspiring the death of an American citizen, where he is a corrupt official in that state. That Paul Leon is conspiring the death of an American citizen, where he is the mayor, a corrupt official in that city. Where the gang stalkers, Mike LORENZ, that entire agency, sharing in the conspiracy to commit murder of the American citizen, whom he is keeping under surveillance through the multiple kidnappings committed and the acts of criminal defamation. All right, the entity went beyond not just kidnapping, but then tried to make up information of mental illness, and then using that based on what is a very real conspiracy to defame in order to murder and kidnap in a facility. Mike LORENZ directly engaging in that. You are being disbanded. And I have a body of evidence of this, specifically the Ontario Police Department stalking me day and night in furtherance of murder, which is why you're going to federal prison. You're not getting a slap on the wrist. You're not just getting removed. You're not just getting suspended. You're not even just losing your job without pay. That's not consequence enough. You're going to prison, federal prison, for conspiring murder and stalking as a whole fake corrupt cop. License 9 FPF 838, which is how terrorism in the United States is executed. It's the corrupt executive branch that murder people and kidnap them. License 64581A4, sex offender. License JSTYURI, sex offender, and the fake sun is reflecting off of their rear windshield. The fake sun that's still over me on this same street in alignment to my hotel room, where the fake sun's now moving, but it's still there at 4:09 p.m. on video. Because everybody that I just identified by company name, license plate, address, they're all engaged in state surveillance. Everything is relevant to what is ongoing ceaseless surveillance. And when you see the police engaging in what is presence of any kind, they're engaged in surveillance. And the entity that engaged in what is providing a wealth of documentation, just gang stalking on the roads and the highways, gang stalking by helicopter, that's the Ontario Police Department engaging in surveillance. And they provided a wealth of evidence of them keeping me under surveillance while they are actively engaged in an ongoing ceaseless criminal conspiracy to commit murder. That's why they are surveilling. And you're going to federal prison and you're being disbanded. The Ontario Police in particular. The evidence also provides for the disbanding of the Los Angeles Police Department, the disbanding of the Fontana Police Department based on the size of the evidence. But disbanding is mandated upon kidnapping, which is what Upland Police engaged in, 9NZL938, and what the Ontario Police Department engaged in on multiple occasions. License 9FD2923, stalking in the path and having a demon in position, waiting to engage in crossing path. This is a Sheraton that is monitoring. All right, Sheraton, I will go ahead and remind you about their address. This is a demon engaging in surveillance, monitoring on communication devices. License plate 08600Y2. The fake sun is over the top of my head. And license, this is U.S. Foods. They're also monitoring me at the Holiday Inn. Sex offender, U.S. Foods is monitoring a woman in the parking lot at the Holiday Inn at 9750 Key Point, where the sun is at the same time No, where Holiday Inn is sharing in the pattern of conduct in Hesperia, California at 9750 Key Point, where I'm documenting the fake sun from sunrise until sunset. 9F02903, as a third party, U.S. Foods is engaged in state surveillance, is engaged in the government's conspiracy to commit murder by keeping American citizens, targeting them, and psychologically torturing them until the day that precedes death, which is murder. All right, that's the entity that's gang stalking. This is Sheraton that is gang stalking. All right, and you know that because Sheraton's across the street. That's called relevant positioning. Sheraton is engaged in a statewide P.O.C. while the fake sun's on the same street that Sheraton is on. Your gang stalking. License plate 8BOB423. P.O.C. License 7KRB354. And don't forget the evidence where the entity is keeping the fake sun. As I checked out of my hotel room last weekend, and the fake sun, I remained outside on that sidewalk. That's why I have Ontario PD stalking by helicopter at that same address of RAMADA by WYNDHAM at 12:32 p.m. It's 11:25 a.m. and the fake sun is again ahead of schedule. And that's if you're looking at the evidence between those 2 days, because there is no natural environment, speaking to direct evidence of surveillance by demons, TRSHBMR included, of engaging what is targeting you in that very clear and obvious environment that defies nature, where demons are stalking in a whole system of surveillance that the United States of America has not announced that it's maintaining. An illusion of privacy protected by the U.S. Constitution, state and federal, and it's an illusion. And the entity, including the Ontario police, who are being disbanded for being enemies of the Constitution, enemies of American citizens and their constitutional rights, for even being hostile and violent toward your enforcement of them. You are being disbanded as what is a lesson regarding how terrorism is going to be treated in this country. It's not going to be tolerated. Duh. It's not going to be tolerated. They're engaged in domestic terrorism in real life. And they're conducting themselves as though it's a joke, and that's also why you're being disbanded. You're being disbanded for what you did. You kidnapped while you're gang stalking, you're being disbanded, but they're also being disbanded for the way that they did it and their attitude toward what is entirely un-American and intolerable by police officers who are committing murder when they're calling it a day's work of law enforcement. 8XFR579 gang stalking at Wendy's. P.O.C. I'm at Wendy's last week when I check out of my room, and I arrive at this Wendy's later in the day. The fake sun is in the same position it is when you look at that documentation. I believe that was during the 1 p.m. hour. This is Wendy's that's gang stalking. This is Wendy's customers that are gang stalking. Every business in California is engaged in state surveillance. That is, every business is a sex offender, as those persons under the law are going to be prosecuted. Every business is engaged in domestic terrorism, meaning they are enemies of American citizens, keeping them under surveillance, conspiring their murder while they're targeting with the government. Every business, including Wendy's. All right, it is currently, by the way, 11:27 a.m. License plate, DY31WB2, paper, 5SQS954. License 9JOP657. Harry, that you're listening to speak to me in the lobby, is engaging in what is absolutely intolerable as a person that's been granted the privilege to be in this country. This is in reference to those that are not natural-born citizens, those that have been given a privilege to be here under whatever circumstances, given a visa, naturalized, whatever process you've gone through with regard to immigration, and you're also at the same time witnessing what is the disdain and the impunity with which Harry is engaging in terrorism in the United States. The entity has absolute disregard for what is a very serious doctrine. Okay, so the entity is engaging in terrorism. There's no joke with regard to terrorism with pertaining to foreign enemies like Osama bin Laden. Oh, like if there is a potential attack by Russia or Korea. Oh, but they think that it's a joke with regard to domestic terrorism in the United States, and that's exactly what federal law and federal prosecution is going to adjust and make sure everybody clearly understands. Okay? The entity is engaging in terrorism in the face of an American citizen. That's how these demons gang stalking at Starbucks. Like this homosexual female that's stalking and monitoring. You see the engineer light all over the wall flying about, and I walk outside and she's engaging, she's taking selfies. That's the disdain. That's the disregard, and that's the entity that you're going to deal with, the terrorists. 8ZDM515, 8YJH454, 7XXP218, BLESSU1, license 9FTA145, the same level of impunity. This is surveillance. Gang stalking immigrants, 7YVC689, driving a burgundy Camry, license plate EG22L17 paper, license plate, and more homosexual women, stalking, 8ADU092. A whole bunch of homosexuals in California is what you need to know, and they're all demons. I read that license plate already. The entities engaging in what is keeping the fake sun, while the United States Postal Service reminds that they're engaging in surveillance in the United States, and they're engaging in what is keeping the fake sun at 8:27 and 9:12 a.m. over 1555 East Holt, and it's remaining over Ramada by WYNDHAM, where the United States Postal Service is not misspelling my name. 7NVA745. United States Postal Service is documented throughout the state of California in all of my documentation, stalking with impossible light. Stalking with impunity. That's the federal government that's engaging in terrorism and doing so with impunity. While they are engaging in what is conspiring your death, doing so with impunity. While they are engaging in terrorizing you and psychologically torturing you and monitoring your evidence, doing so with impunity. This entity, I want to be clear, entirely un-American. The patriotism, the American dream, your vote, okay? This is all an illusion for you to be caught up in that hype. Meanwhile, there's a whole population, that is the government itself, that doesn't even believe in any of those ideals at all. That's why they laugh at the notion of a prosecution for terrorism. That's why they think that it's a joke. That's why you have law enforcement that's actually exposed as terrorist organizations. It's not law enforcement. That's why you have that. That's why you have that ongoing increase in criminal activity as you expose it. This is an entity that has absolute disregard for the illusion that it is necessarily presenting to cover up what is this system, and also to create the illusion regarding the absence of any such existence of any system. What are you talking about? We have a constitution. What are you talking about? Newsom is an extraordinary governor. This is that angel of light could never be responsible for that. I mean, you're going to look at the evidence because it speaks for itself. And you're also going to look at how the entity is behaving as a bunch of terrorists in the state of California. This is domestic terrorism. 9APD 698, 9AXW 604, 9PNE 617. And the entity is full of pedophiles. Okay? They engage in sex with children, and they also don't want those children to grow up and tell you about it. This is why they gang stalk them and target them and try to murder them before they can tell anyone. And the government knows all about that because that's a government program as well. And that's what all of the demon-possessed people of the state are also aware of as well, while they're targeting. They're all sharing in that criminal conspiracy and that knowledge together. And guess who is being disbanded with that knowledge? The Ontario Police Department, sharing in that criminal conspiracy. Pedophiles. Okay, license plate 7DKX154, P.O.C. The fake sun's now on the sidewalk in front of 231, North Vineyard Avenue. And I already referred to you about evidence of the kidnapping that this entity committed in 2021 by S. Patty in June of 2021 at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, where the sun is never rising while it's remaining over Economy Inn at the same time, nonetheless on the same street. Okay, neither is it when it's remaining over me in Hesperia. In June of 2024, I'm at Alvarado Gardens. It's not rising over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts in June, where S. Patty of the Ontario Police is going to federal prison, committed kidnapping. She committed kidnapping again in July of 2022. She's going to federal prison. But nonetheless, you're also recognizing the environment where she is engaged in, not a false arrest, not confusion with regard to authority, not something that is tortious, but something that is relevant to terrorism, something that's relevant to targeting. She knows exactly who I am. While a fake sun is over that Ontario Museum of History and Arts, she's also a demon, a malicious psychopath, and a violent sex offender engaged in pedophilia and trying to cover that system of pedophilia by the government, trying to cover it up. With Tracy Banks, with Jason Isaac Fields, a co-conspirator to my murder, while she commits kidnapping in June of 2021, where the fake sun is remaining over me in June of 2024, where the LAPD is engaging in targeting me under the fake sun, which does not share a natural environment with S. Patty, showing the malice with which she's engaged in what is conspiring to murder an American citizen who she is kidnapping. She committed kidnapping, and she did so on more than one occasion. She's going to federal prison, and this is relevant to the corruption of that entire agency that's stalking day and night. And then they always forget that there's a whole bunch of people that are going to federal prison for that very conduct, and what they continuously do is ongoing additional evidence accumulating about what they're doing as a whole agency, every demon in particular that's under the fake sun and an engineer light day and night stalking, because they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison. And they're doing that because they're conspiring murder, not engaged in law enforcement. The two are diametrically opposed. That's what the Ontario police are actually engaging in, and the evidence proves it. That's not some unsubstantiated, uncorroborated, just conjecture and commentary and opinion and conspiracy theory like demons would love to be able to state, but they can't. They can't reasonably and truthfully, because I stand on facts. What do they stand on? Hot air. They stand on what the gang members all falsely testified to together. And then once you pierce the substance and look at the substance, they've got nothing. They're lying. They make it up. But that fake son doesn't lie. And the P.O.C. does not lie. And no person could come up with a consistent body of evidence if they were lying. It would have, you would have seen that I was making it up from the beginning. And by the way, this same entity tried to steal my evidence, is profiting from theft of my evidence. That's also letting you know that it's the truth. That's why they try to steal it. And also what you gain from knowing that the entity has sought to steal my evidence is the fact that the entity indeed conspires murder. You're trying to steal my evidence because you're going to walk away with it and I'm not going to say a word, or you're stealing my evidence because you have every intention to murder me and no one's ever going to know anything about it in the first place? Is that why? Okay, that's the entity that's engaging in what is the criminal activity pursuant to the conspiracy to commit murder, including while in Ovage's gang stalking, just like they are at Woodside Senior Apartments. License 81865K3. Under the fake son that remains over 408 West G Street, over Tracy Banks' apartment specifically. That company is engaged in monitoring, and they like to do so with the aged population that's fully engaged in the same targeting system. P.O.C. It's 11:35 a.m. Good morning. It's morning still, right? Yeah. Good morning. I would like to purchase. These are like
They're $3.30.
325 or 330?
$3.30. Well, $3.25 and then 5 cents tax. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna buy one of these. You know if I get also a cup of ice with that?
Perfect. What was your name?
Erica, you're Giselle, right?
Yes. Send me $2.70, please.
$2.70.
Thank you. And there you go. And it'll be right out for you. Thank you so much.
Oh, do you know what size cup of ice?
Venti cup?
Yeah. I didn't say it, but good job.
Yeah, I said venti cup.
Good job. Thank you. Have a good one. Straws are over there, right?
Yeah.
All right, the entity knows my name while the fake son is over Starbucks, where Starbucks is monitoring. And Starbucks has committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice, including kidnapping, for which Ocean is going to federal prison. Again, that's the entity that's exhibiting mental illness and malice, not under any circumstances even acting remotely close like anything or anyone that's not targeting. You're understanding the illusion of the state that's engaged in surveillance. That's Giselle, however, that's monitoring. Everything she's saying is a criminal act committed by Starbucks and Giselle. It's laughable when they ask your name and you're going to look up in the sky, the fake sun's remaining over me, while demons are inside of Starbucks pacing with that ridiculous, impossible light that you can see on X and on YouTube and on my website, knowing exactly who I am. That's a psychopath, okay? That's actual mental illness, as opposed to what the entity tries to defame the target individual with. They are the ones that are paranoid schizophrenics. They are the ones that are hallucinating with regard to what is a surefire prosecution. They've only deceived themselves. And that's because of all that witchcraft. License plate 9UDK164. And let me show you the fake sun that is over me at this venue. Remember when I approached last weekend in the weirdo in the blue car with the mustache? He feels awkward while he's being exposed for gang stalking, and so he starts waving at the camera. That was in the middle of the afternoon. It's 11 in the morning where demons are pacing just like they are under a fake sun as a population of sex offenders and pedophiles, 9HLY290, conspiring the death with the government, including the demons of Innovage, engaging in the exact same thing that Life Water is engaging in, that Vactor is engaging in, psychopath stalking with flashing of light under a fake sun. That's, again, what I refer to as commercial stalking. And Innovage is sharing in what is conspiracy to murder American citizens while doing so, and Innovage is going to be prosecuted with the rest of the state. There's no sun that's going to remain over me on Euclid Avenue yesterday when I am in the plaza capturing the Ontario police gang stalking, where Innovage is in an environment that is irreconcilable, showing to targeting. While they're making, again, a business. This is a psychopath that engages in stalking, for example, in grocery stores, stalking at a cafe, stalking via a drive-thru, stalking in a helicopter and in airplanes, one person. This is the entity that's stalking under a fake sun. And you see the entity with light, illuminating light through the drive-thru, where Giselle is a demon and is engaged, and her demon possession is evident all over the internet while she's monitoring, asking me a question that she knows the answer to. It's not a very good tactic. The entity is engaging what is, in every regard, demonstrating mental illness. The fake sun is over the drive-thru of the entity that is stalking at 111 North Vineyard Avenue, where the fake sun at what is, again, 11. Let me give you the time right now, because you're going to remember what the entity is doing last weekend, and that's how you're always recognizing the pattern of conduct. When the entity is stalking in the here and now, and they were never prepared to be proven, documented that is, maintain a record, an organized record, that is, again, also made palatable for the public to witness what is a government stalking, what that looks like, and what that government is, demon-possessed. 7 ETM 991. And this is when the fake sun is over me. I don't even get here until after 1 o'clock, I believe it's right at the 1 o'clock hour, if not during the latter part of the 12 p.m. hour, but I believe it's after 1 o'clock last week. And the entity has the fake sun. And remember, it stays right here because I stay at 111 North Vineyard Avenue, where the entity has the fake sun. And then you have the body of evidence of the rise and set of the fake sun at Economy Inn by the 60 freeway, where a population of pedophiles and co-conspirators to murder are monitoring together with the government. This is a system that Gavin Newsom is maintaining. License 9PUE167. And there is no vantage point under this elaborate structure where sunlight would be luminescing through Giselle's workplace of the drive-thru, where she serves demons that are gang stalking me along with her. And this psychopath asks me my name, and she knows very well who I am. She's a homosexual that knows the status of my vagina. DY31W82, stalking through a drive-thru, homosexual women who are demon-possessed. All right, gang stalking under a drive-thru window where none of them making any orders or driving by is going to create any sort of light that's flashing on my breast like these homosexual demons engage in, especially while they're being documented. And their mental illness shows more clearly. Okay, the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and there's a body of evidence, not just what I'm documenting today, which is evidence to prosecute. There's a body of evidence that is used to prosecute. There's a history that's already establishing what it is that I'm documenting right now. There is no vantage point where you're anything other than a demon who is conspiring murder while you're stalking as a population. And the entity that covered up the fake sun this morning at the RAMADA Inn, that's the entity that is a very cruel psychopath engaging in psychological torture and wanting to hide, but it's a failure. But you're looking at that intent, that desire to, and that effort to hide the fact that you're trying to murder somebody, hide the fact that you're stalking them as a whole population, co-conspiring murder. Okay, and the entity is doing so. When you're filling up your gas tank under the fake sun, you're monitoring, and that's a psychopath, that's a sex offender. All right, and so is Sparks Solar. License 9HLP861. This is P.O.C. The fake sun is over my head while they're filling up their gas tank. That's gang stalking by the state. 8KRA566, 8JMV128. All right, there's no sun that's going to remain over the roof of 111 North Vineyard Avenue, where you saw the state stalking by planes while that fake sun was over my head at 111 North Vineyard Avenue, where American Airlines is gang stalking, at where the fake sun is in the same position it is now, at another hour, later hour, and American Airlines is shown and proven to be conspiring the murder of an American citizen, that they derive pleasure from torturing. These are cold-blooded murderers. These are indeed pedophiles that want to also cover up the fact that they are pedophiles by gang stalking in order to commit murder. And that's the reality of what's going on in California in every business. What they're actually engaged in, what they're seeking to accomplish. It is making money, but it's also murder and concealment of criminal conduct, corrupt conduct, while they're engaging in what is a malicious business, a malicious business plan as well, where the government's engaging in surveillance through any and every person. It is currently 11:43 a.m. The images will be uploaded to the Google Drive. All right, license 9FYJ712. City of Ontario's gang stalking. Doing so, pacing in and out of Metro 102 where the fake sun's over me. 8XNT801, 7ZGW124, 4VHCO73. That's criminal stalking. This is the government that's maintaining surveillance to a population. So they're all stalking. 5VCR117, including City of Ontario and Metro 102 apartments. Remember, the fake sun is not already, it is the fake sun because it's not already over the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. It's over me through the windows of the bus, moving in the direction that that bus is moving at the speed limit that it's moving, situated where I'm positioned on that bus. 8CO7375, and not remaining outside of my hotel room after 3 o'clock in the afternoon and after 5 o'clock in the evening. All right, and big picture is that it's still remaining on 3 main streets in Ontario: Euclid Avenue, G Street, and as I've been on Vineyard. License 8HUN386, and when you look at a map, you're literally looking at 3 interconnected streets. This is surveillance. License 7059924. 9PNV296 in City of Ontario. This is Paul Leon. That's keeping me under surveillance and furtherance of murder. And this is, again, a statewide pattern of conduct that every mayor in California is sharing. And there is no exception. There's no city. There's no corner in California that's not engaged in surveillance. And the fake sun is conclusive evidence of that. You have a whole engineered environment, a whole fake environment centered around one person. They're demons, and this is surveillance that's statewide. City of Ontario is pacing, using the utility vehicle with flashing light. That's demonic. And this is the government that's engaged in demonic conduct. And pacing 5VCR117 with the demons of Southwest Airlines. Let me show you that. There's no landing. They're not landing over the B&G Plaza. All right, this is 150 East Holt right there. That's the where the intersection of Lemon and Plum is. Excuse me, Lemon and Holt. And that surveillance by the license plate I already read. 7ZGW124 is monitoring while the City of Ontario maintains aerial surveillance across the path. City of Ontario priority is gang stalking with this third party with the City of Ontario. That's light activity over there. And they're centering it around while this subdued fake sun is right over the top of my head. You already know that. Getting off of Route 61 in the morning, get off of Route 61 at 11 o'clock in the morning where Ontario police are stalking on the roads and the highways. Getting off of Route 61 in the afternoon, coming from the 1627 East Holt, where Gavin Newsom and the San Bernardino County and the state of California is monitoring. This is what life, water is engaged in, what Vector is engaged in, demonic activity, which is a communication of a threat while demons are keeping you under surveillance, and they're monitoring with the government, Southwest Airlines, that's concentrating plane activity on the street that I'm at, as opposed to flying over the Ontario Town Square, neither of which include taking off or landing at the airport at 2500 Airport Drive. 5VCR117 is a co-conspirator to murder and is very much aware of the pedophilia that the government practices, while it has the common demons of the state of California engaging in state surveillance. P.O.C. That's Tracy Banks' co-defendant. License 9JZN811 lets you know that blacks and whites are not divided like they want you to think they are. These are demons unified in criminal activity. And this is state surveillance, by the way. And they're all demons. It is currently 12:06 p.m. This is a pattern of conduct. And the entity is engaging in what is monitoring evidence while you've already seen from sunrise until sunset, literally on B Street, which is where I've documented the fake sun, in 6 in the morning in this parking lot. Southwest Airlines flying over this building, monitoring me, flying behind me, which is relevant positioning as they remain on the south side of my person, while demons are pacing. This is what this is. They're all in engineered light. The same engineered light is present. What is covering up the bright, shining fake sun is evidence of surveillance of the evidence that I'm publishing on the internet, and it's evidence of mental illness. These are delusional co-conspirators to murder who are exposed for sex trafficking children, having sex with children, then trying to murder the victims of that sex trafficking system. All right, and this is the entity that engages in monitoring them. 29917C3, P.O.C, and it's all races. 8DZA266, and this is the handiwork of Gavin Newsom, okay, and Ontario Paul Leon. These are corrupt officials who are interested in concealing pedophilia, interested in concealing public corruption. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 12:08 p.m. Where the unit, am I in your way? It is currently 12:08, I believe. 12:08 p.m. Yeah, 12:08 p.m. This is the fake sign. It's right here. It's concealed. And it's not over the entrance already. This is P.O.C. How can I help you?
My phone died. I wanted to know if I could use your phone to call.
Neither one of these
Because I was
operate. Sorry.
And I'm waiting for the bus, but apparently it's not going to be here for another hour, 87, to go to
Oh,
Eastville.
87's on Euclid.
I asked the 61, the bus driver, and they said they're not going to be here until another hour.
Yeah,
So
when you go to the bus stop that's on Euclid, they give you announcements that'll tell you the time and the next time it's coming. But I believe 87 is like hourly. I think that is the case. But if you know where the stop is,
yeah, I know where it's
it'll
at.
tell you at the bus
they
stop.
have one right here, too.
It has announcements on it. So now you're not just sitting there without, I mean, it doesn't have a phone for you to use, but it does announce the time, and it says, oh, the bus is coming in like 47 minutes or something like that. Okay,
gotta look
sorry,
for
but none of these
somebody
phones, these are both Wi-Fi phones, they're not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna say what you want. What do you want? What do you want? Okay, this is the entity that's engaging what is harassment in all manners, so that's why I am interested in what a third party has to say to me. So she's monitoring while she's asking the questions, but that's what I'm laughing about to myself, because the entity tries to find creative ways to engage in harassment. Just want to be clear. Understand the notion of harassment. Harassment is that which is 8 UOR 477, first of all. Harassment is not necessarily that which is happening in a quote-unquote nice manner. Excuse me, harassment does not exclude that which is happening in a quote-unquote nice manner. All right? The entity is engaging in what is, that is evidence of harassment, okay? But she's not verbally directly threatening me. She's threatening me because she's monitoring. She's asking me a question, and she did so in a fine, nice manner, okay? But understand that I do not represent the ordinary targeted individual. I am prosecuting. The government has never been exposed for this before. The government's never been exposed for criminal surveillance. So there is an exceptional level with regard to the entity. However, you have also witnessed the entity directly threatening, and you're also in substance you're threatening, because no matter how your tone of voice is, no matter what the facial expression is, no matter what your position is, no matter what it is that you're trying to offer to do, you don't have an actual friend. They're monitoring you. So that is inherent harassment, okay? So do not be deceived with regard to what is understanding the substance of what the doctrine of harassment is with regard to monitoring. That's harassment. The entity is engaging in what is harassment as well when they are calling me a nigger, and engaging in what is calling me out of my name, racial epithets, and calling me clearly out of my name, defaming my character, engaging in what is also stalking by helicopter, flying in circles over my head, stalking me with commercial planes, stalking with amplified audible activity, stalking inside of the hotel room with earthquake creation, sensational activity, in other words, under my feet, on the bed, while I'm in the bathroom, doing so while my panties are down and I'm using the restroom or I'm taking a shower. That's all harassment as well. Okay? The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, so don't be deceived by that. But that's what I'm laughing to myself about, because this third party she was standing beside me while I'm capturing this video that you just heard me capture. And I'm really like, what do you want? Okay, this is a threat. It's a threat while the entity is monitoring you. And you're also dealing with mentally unstable people who are demon possessed, and they are very outraged because of my knowledge of that. And not only that, they can't even discount it. They're mad because I've proven it. Remember, the entity is engaging in, and the entity's condition is that which it is expecting to be able to defame that person that would claim that doesn't have any evidence. Oh, write them off, they're crazy. The entity can't do that. I proved all of the above. I proved surveillance. The entity is engaged in being exposed for pedophilia. I'm not the only person that the entity has targeted. And the reason why the entity is targeting, trying to conceal, and also trying to steal from me. Okay, there's multiple reasons why the entity is targeting, and you need to know it's because they're demons. This is spiritually rooted. Okay, because I do follow Christ Jesus. They know who you are when you're not of that demonic clan. They know exactly who you are. This is also letting you know about the significance of what is very real demon possession, demonic activity. And it's also given to you in evidence that no one can refute. You can ignore it, but it's not reasonable to do so. And when you do so, it's disingenuous. I'm not even going to have an exchange with you because you want to disregard plain, obvious evidence right in front of your face. That's like saying that's like saying the sky isn't real. Okay, the sky is clearly there, so you're just going to disregard the presence of the sky there, like something ignorant like that, okay? So that's literally untenable. That's not logical, and that's a disingenuous effort to have an exchange, a fruitful exchange about what you may agree or don't agree with. But it's not a matter of a debate with regard to the evidence. It's hard evidence. I didn't make any of it up. All I did was capture it. I captured it in real time, and the evidence speaks for itself. The evidence establishes what it is that I said was going on in the beginning. And I also said what's going to happen. It's currently 12:13 p.m. I'm at the OVITT Family Community Library, the entity covering up the fake sun and doing so. The evidence has already shown the fake sun rising and setting at 215 E.C. Street. This is malice, and this is a threat to your life, while the entity that's conspiring your murder engages in things such as any manner of trying to cover that up, conceal that. And it's not refuting the case. The case is already complete. This is relevant to the unlawful threat that an American citizen is subject to when malicious co-conspirators of murder and violent sex offenders try to cloak that identity, try to cloak that by covering it up in one way or another. This is letting you know about the character of that entity. That's all that is, because the fake sun you already know is there from sunrise until sunset, and it's letting you know about a population of malicious actors. These are serial killers and pedophiles, psychopaths. Actual mental illness. It is currently 12:14 p.m. and so that's relevant to what you hear me laughing about to myself. The reality is that the entity is engaged in harassment, and it's not based on intonation or how friendly or even how delicate they may seem. Harassment is based on the pattern of conduct that is ceaselessly underway. Everyone, there is no such thing as nicely monitoring someone. There's no such thing as nicely conspiring their murder by gang stalking them. It does not exist. Okay, so that's what you're listening to me document, and it's a good real life example for what it is that the target individual is experiencing, and I just happen to be documenting it because it's not only the evidence that I'm showing, I'm giving what is insurmountable evidence about what I couldn't make any of this up, and no one else, the entity that doesn't have this level of evidence, the entity that doesn't have this skill set, the entity that doesn't have this, the creative ability to give you the resolution to the problem, let alone maybe even explain the problem. They might not even understand the problem. That's not because there's some sort of inept person. It's because they've been targeted by Satan. And Satan is using a whole population and a government body. It is the work of the devil, okay? And it's supposed to overwhelm someone, and that's not mental illness. That's malice of somebody that's being targeted, okay? And that's the bully, the government. And you're watching the government being bullied with evidence. You're watching the government being bullied. And by the way, the bully is a coward. The bully is a coward. That's what the entity, that's why they're covering up a fake sun, all right? It's P.O.C. It's currently 12:15. All right, this is where sex offenders are pacing in and out. This is the employees engaging in the sex offensive monitoring in the bathroom. These are the mentally ill that are stalking with light. These are the mentally ill that are stalking while I'm in a hotel room. These are the mentally ill that are stalking with sensational activity, earthquakes inside of my hotel room. They're all engaging with a surveillance inside of a library, and the more that I document, the more demons pace in and out of the bathroom, monitoring me, okay? Those are stalkers that go inside of the women's restroom. And stalkers that maintain relevant positioning, amplified noise and light activity in the restroom. And this is all impossible light. Well, this light is not going to be the explanation for what is the same pattern of conduct and under the fake sun and at nightfall, where my shadows on both sides of myself. And this is where demons are engaging in monitoring my vagina. This is the entity that covers up the fake sun. That is, the coverage of the fake sun is evidence of criminal surveillance and violent sex offenders that want to co-conspire murder and sexual violence, pedophilia, etc., and try to cover it up and fail. The covering up evidence is evidence of surveillance, and these are sex offenders. They're all sitting in engineered light. The psychopaths that are stalking with the corrupt law enforcement agency that flies circles over my head at this venue where the fake sun rises and sets, and you'll see close-up images of them appropriately labeled sex offender. This is surveillance, and under no iteration of any artificial light is your shadow meeting on both sides, meeting together like this. Yeah, that's not the product of being under normal light. These are demons, and this is a demonic environment, and this is the illusion where surveillance is underway. These are demons that engage in surveillance, sitting here, sitting in engineer light where the entity keeps a fake sun over the window, where the entity mains engineer light all over. This is all engineer light. And it's engineer light while they walk in it and go into bathrooms to monitor my vagina. P.O.C. This is sexual violence at the City of Ontario, Paul Leon. He's in an adjacent building, keeping my vagina under surveillance. Gavin Newsom, the governor of the state of California, where surveillance is underway in the state, and the entity is engaging in what is targeting and the sex offense, the illegitimate interest in what's between my legs and what's going on in the bathroom is the sex offense committed by that entity, and a population of what you need to know are sex offenders. P.O.C. This is mental illness. All right, the videos that you're listening to, this is video documentation of my leaving the venue, where the entity has already documented keeping the fake sign over the RAMADA by WYNDHAM, and this is showing you how a population of who are also demon-possessed, violent sex offenders and psychopaths, sharing in what is in a ceaseless system of psychological torture and stalking together at every place at all time through all people. And this is also the businesses that are sharing in that. That's why when I get on the bus, the entity's keeping the fake sun and I'm being molested with light that's just appearing out of nowhere. That's demonic. It's the same demonic pattern of conduct. It's evidence of targeting. It's evidence of what is demonic. Psychological torture is relevant to demonic activity that's designed to keep somebody under surveillance. That's how you're going to prosecute it. And this is occurring again under Paul Leon's corrupt leadership and everything that is happening under Gavin Newsom's corrupt leadership while he is exposed as a terrorist leader, betraying American citizens and keeping them under surveillance. And as I'm exposing, conspiring my murder while the state of California, including him, absent any constitutional authority and certainly violating my human rights to engage in keeping me under surveillance, which the people of the state in Ontario, California are engaging in on behalf of this corrupt mayor, Gavin Newsom. Who has never announced. He's telling you everything else that's a lie and is not speaking on which he needs to expose is that surveillance is underway in California and it's under his leadership. Okay, his corrupt leadership. The entity is engaging in gang stalking. As I get on the bus, I'm showing you the fake sun over Starbucks at 111 North Vineyard Avenue. I'm showing you the entity that's keeping the fake sun that's over the OMNITRANS bus going down what is west on Holt Boulevard. I'm showing you the fake sun that's at Grove and Holt. I'm showing you the fake sun that's remaining over me as I am traveling, before I get on the bus at the gas station, the Quick Mart, where Sun Solar, that's a third party, and that third party pumping gas in order to stalk me, and the evidence of your knowledge of that focus on me as opposed to filling up their gas tank is the fake sun that's over in its zenith at the top of my head while I'm at the intersection of Vineyard and Holt Boulevard. And that is representing what a population of demons are doing, including as I arrive at the OVITT Family Community Library. The only reason why the entity covered up the fake sun today, I will let you know, it's in conformity to a pattern of conduct of demons who are, again, not only spiritually deficient, okay, intellectually deficient, and definitely not prepared for the legal framework of a prosecution of their psychopathic pattern of conduct that's committed in furtherance of murder. The entity covered up the fake sun because it's monitoring the evidence, and as I reference the fact that I checked out of that same hotel last week, the entity then covers up the fake sun as I go to Starbucks, show you the fake sun, go to Vineyard and Holt Boulevard, and the entity is over my head with the fake sun while demons are stalking at the Quick Mart gas station. The entity covers up the fake sun. You can still see it while I'm on OMNITRANS, but it is again covered up while Southwest Airlines is stalking, hovering like a fake sun hovers, by the way. In doing so, the low elevation is not relevant to a landing, which would necessarily be at the B&G Plaza where they're flying that low. The entities engage in that sort of creeping conduct with planes while they're stalking me throughout the city, and then in feigning some sort of takeoff. You saw Southwest Airlines showing you how they're stalking me throughout the city in planes while they're hovering behind me while I am walking north on Lemon after getting off of Route 61 of OMNITRANS. A venue, a facilitated venue where on the roads and the highway surveillance is underway, proven through the maintenance of a fake sun, which is already on the record. Covering up the fake sun is evidence of criminal surveillance by the co-conspirators of murder, the state of California. The entity is engaging in what is stalking by Southwest Airlines, who was also proven to be targeting me at every other place under the fake sun and an engineered light, day and night throughout the city, and them crouching down, hovering, flying east along Holt Boulevard over the 150 East Holt Boulevard. That's not a landing right there. That would be landing right there. That's how low they are. The airport is at a distance where they're not going to be hovering. And this is common sense. That's how I'm able to scrutinize that for you. The Southwest Airlines is showing you how they're stalking me with planes, because that's what they do. They creep through this. Like I say, when I say stalker, rusty, dusty, crusty, when I say weirdo, when I say demon, when I say psychopath, that's exactly what Southwest Airlines is showing to you while they're creeping. And that creeping is committed in a commercial plane by hovering in a location where planes are not landing over 150 East Hope Boulevard. They're also not taking off over 150 East Hope Boulevard, as the entity also does. The relevant context is that the fake sun is over my head, where you're seeing the entity engaging in that P.O.C. And Southwest Airlines committed that on video. First of all, it's impunity. First of all, it's that which they're conspiring, acting for in furtherance of murder in real time. The entity's engaging in terrorism on video, which is what my evidence shows. Not only that, they're showing you how they're stalking me throughout the city, flying miles away from the airport, 2500 Airport Drive, and then engaging what is rising in elevation. That's what Southwest Airlines just showed you and demonstrated for you. That's how they are miles away from the airport at 2500 Airport Drive, and then engaging in what is creeping like Southwest Airlines is doing, and then rising in elevation over 325 West G Street. Okay, when you want to act like you're landing right there at off of Hope Boulevard, then what are you doing rising in elevation miles away over 325 West G Street? What are you doing as though planes are taking off over 408 West G Street, over the 7-Eleven, where the Ontario International Airport, that's the entity committed a kidnapping with Jason Knight and Lester Keys. The entity is engaging in what is a body of evidence showing targeting under all circumstances, and it is combined with the evidence of the fake sun and the engineered light, where surveillance is underway, and that's severe mental illness while you are stalking inside of a library. And that's where I'm at. You're looking at the sex offenders who are engaging in surveillance in bathrooms. The very embarrassing and psychopathic and predatory conduct is that which is that likened to what are pedophiles. And this sex trafficking ring regarding having sex with children and then engaging in what is targeting them, gang stalking them in order to murder them. So, for example, they won't grow up and document it and publish evidence about it and expose it. And that's relevant to the surveillance that's underway by sex offenders inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. And Satan is calling itself an OVITT Family Community Library because Satan is a liar and likes to appear as an angel of light, something that's associated with family, something that's associated with a library even, and community. These are typically words that are that have what is a positive and enjoyable, if you will, and celebrated phrase when you think about such things. The entity is engaging in what is all manner of sexual violence, torture, harassment, terrorism, and criminal activity, including federal stalking and furtherance of murder, while it's calling itself the OVITT Family Community Library on the outside of the building. All right, there is no evidence with regard to what is already on the record, stalking with a fake sign, including while coming from 1841 East G Street, where the entity is stalking with that environment and stalking as a population. That is going to do anything other than corroborate the fact that Southwest Airlines are engaged in sacrificing American citizens, and this gang stalking system is relevant in exposing pervasive and highly intrusive and psychopathic surveillance, okay? There's no strangers in California, there's no strangers in the U.S. And this is revealing and removing that illusion of privacy, where you don't know the person that's in front of you. That's an illusion. And it's an unpersuasive one where the entity is stalking with an environment that I've shown you surrounds you as well. And while the entity is targeting me in all the ways in which you need to be aware that you are under surveillance as well, while the entity is engaging what is targeting me in furtherance of murder to cover up criminal activity that it has already committed against me, you are thereby also informed of the fact that the government is engaged in targeting American citizens, and the details of their lives is a matter of public information. So the entity is engaging what is stalking me in the bathroom, and before I go into the bathroom, what I'm capturing is surveillance. So the demon-possessed males go into the male restroom, the demon-possessed employees go into the staff restroom. That's on both sides of the women's restroom, where sex offenders, homosexual, and in preference, I guess, the entities engage, if you want to categorize it, because that's the orientation of somebody that's obsessed with my genitalia. That's a woman like me, okay? And the entities engaging in what is homosexual violence while stalking, entering into the bathroom while the demons are surrounding at all corners. And doing so, again, above, the entity keeps the fake sun through the elevator window, and that's supposed to be, again, the ignorant conduct of having engineer light all over the floor, remaining there all day long, and the fake sun remaining at the entrance, no longer over that window of the staircase, because while it's over the staircase window, that's not at the entry. Even that is showing what is necessarily migration. This is absolutely ignorant activity that the entity is being documented while it's engaged in what is obsessive conduct, stalking with light. Stalking with light, the flashing of light, these are people that are outwardly demonstrating severe mental instability. And they are doing so pursuant to what is accomplishing criminal surveillance. And this criminal surveillance system is happening under the corrupt leadership of Gavin Newsom, that is accustomed and is presiding over a corrupt and criminal system of surveillance that is committed against me in furtherance of murder. And this is what Gavin Newsom is doing in concert with Tracy Banks, with Jason Isaac Fields, with Eric Corey Spencer, those that have defamed my character, the Ontario Police Department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, demons like Shannon Faherty, whom Gavin Newsom have placed into a position of a judge after committing a kidnapping against me, by the way, and doing so pursuant to a pattern of conduct that the city of Ontario is engaging in with regard to what is the motivation, not only stealing money and property that belongs to me, but the entity engaged in what is sexual violence and wants to conceal that as well. This is indeed a pattern of conduct that is committed by gang stalking families. If you've never heard of the notion of mom and dad being a psychopath and a sex offender and pedophiles while they give birth to children, that's exactly what the gang stalking entity, what the demon-possessed entity engages in. And on the surface, you're looking at them walking into the family community library under a fake sun and engineered light, where all of their shadows surround them while they're monitoring as a family another person, looking at the DVDs for Dora the Explorer and chipmunks while they're monitoring another person, obsessed with that other person, even teaching their little demon-possessed children how to be a predator and monitor someone else with the employees at that family community library, with the government that's stalking with planes and helicopters at that family community library, while they're all keeping the evidence of their psychopathic and sexually perverted pattern of conduct committed in furtherance of murder as a corrupt government under surveillance. All right, the entity is engaged in this, and it is a crime committed by a population. And this is, again, a public service announcement. If you are not in California, I would suggest that you not come here. Satan has completely taken over the minds and the lifestyles of the population here. California is entirely corrupt through and through. And there is no redeeming quality. There is absolutely nothing that is legitimate. Everything that's happening in California is coexisting with criminal surveillance. And that is, in other words, Satan that maintains a charity while it is simultaneously engaged in surveillance. That is Satan that is maintaining an event for supporting rape victims, domestic violence victims, while they're simultaneously engaging in criminal surveillance. This is the entity that's engaging what is maintaining homeless services for the vulnerable, for those that are impoverished, while they are simultaneously engaging in surveillance, psychologically torturing at the same time as handing out free water bottles and free meals. This is what fills California. It's called malice. All right. And the entity is doing so against me as I'm exposing that. And this is the entity that engaged in pedophilia, that's engaged in voyeurism, that's engaged in sex trafficking, that's engaged in what is kidnapping, that's engaged in the public, that's engaging in violation of privacy, meaning this is the corporate invasion of privacy by an entity, a public entity. That's engaged in gang stalking is together violating the privacy of one person. That is the public keeping me under surveillance in my hotel room. That is the public monitoring my vagina in the bathroom. That is the public that is stalking me from place to place. That public represents the state. Gavin Newsom specifically, personally, is keeping me under surveillance. That's how detailed and thorough and substantive the pattern of conduct is. It is only happening because Gavin Newsom is permitting it and is aware of it and is also profiting from it. Okay, and is invested in it. Okay, so this is relevant to the sex offenders who are pacing. This is psychopathic conduct by people who are dead. These are demon-possessed people. They're zombies. All they're doing is monitoring me, following me around, following my physical movements, and following what I'm doing on my devices and on the internet. Following by stalking with noise. Following by stalking with light. You are doing that by walking in engineered light. You're doing that by creating noise and engineered light around me. You're doing that while you are in the path, while a whole bunch of other people that are targeting together are surrounding surrounding and stalking with blight, and you're doing so by being in the path as well. This is the entity that is engaged in obsessive and psychopathic, maniacal conduct of surveillance. And they're doing it while they're exposed, okay? So this is serving for what is federal prison for the appropriate parties. And I want to be clear, everybody is worthy of federal prison because of the criminal conspiracy that includes every single person. But again, children you can't put in federal prison, and perhaps that's not the appropriate forum. And it's not practicable to put a whole population of people, of demons, of terrorists in federal prison as well. So you're understanding what is necessary policy surrounding the system and what is mandated federal prison for particular types of offenders. Okay, and that's, again, the gang stalking and corrupt and law enforcement agencies, federal prison. The gang stalking family members and fake friends, co-workers, colleagues, students that your professor could, because you're going to school, you're talking about the regularity, the systematic means, the intolerable level of facilitation. You go to school every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they're monitoring you. That's federal prison. All right, you're getting on the same bus every night, the same bus driver, the same passengers. That's federal prison, and your documentation aids in that, but the federal government is aware of the existence of the system and is able to conduct a competent and actual investigation, not what the federal government has committed against me, for which I will also recover, all right? But the federal government is able to conduct a competent investigation and determine those that are subject to federal prison based on intolerable facilitation, committed in furtherance of murder by the government. This is the government that thinks that they're sly enough, that they're elite enough. No, they're not. They're idiots under a fake sun, stalking with supernatural features of a system. That's going to automatically catch people's attention. The engineer light, that turned out to be something that points the finger at you. And these, again, imbeciles engage in published, widely exposed means of demonic activity and evidence of targeting criminal surveillance and psychological torture as you analyze that stalker. That is demon-possessed. All right, the entities engaging in this and that level of conduct such as kidnapping, which the family community library employees with the people of the state committed and continuously commit, and are doing so while they're keeping the evidence of their terrorism even under surveillance. That level of audacity, the smack in the face of the federal government that has a duty to make it clear that domestic terrorism shall not be tolerated in the United States of America. The entities engaging in this in real time. The demons pacing in and out of the administration door adjacent to the conference room where I'm inside, they're pacing, they're psychopaths. This is what they were doing outside of my hotel room at the RAMADA by WYNDHAM, the same exact pattern of conduct. The entities in doing so under the fake sun, the same exact pattern of conduct. The entities doing so more frequently with the intent to harass, that is obstruct justice, while they're monitoring the evidence that is being documented in real time because they are engaged in surveillance. They're pacing in and out of the administration door adjacent to this conference, and engineer light having shadows on both sides of the person, perpendicular shadows, vacillating shadows, shadows varying in color concentration. And they're doing so with regard to a disdain for federal law. The entity that hates this country, that's the domestic terrorists that are being deported. You don't even belong here, you don't like it here, get out. That's how that's going to be dealt with. The entity that's engaging in domestic terrorism with this level of impunity, you're talking about what is, again, the diagnosis and the federal prosecution, the conviction. Remember, the entities engaging in what is criminal activity while they're on the job, having already committed kidnapping, engaging in what is ongoing harassment and terrorism, keeping the evidence under surveillance, all manner of invasion of a federal case. Who does the state of California think that it is? This is what needs to be addressed with regard to what is the duty of the federal government to sizably respond to domestic terrorism. And that is a statement to the rest of the country that is terrorizing American citizens. That's a statement to foreign terrorists, those that are outside of the borders of the U.S., watching America betray its own citizens, by the way, coming in and participating in it. The demon-possessed population that have no loyalty to the American flag, to the American way. As you put all of that satanic pattern of conduct within a legal framework. Okay? It is currently 1:48 p.m. The entity kept the fake sun while I'm walking to RAMADA by WYNDHAM yesterday while these demons are engaging in gang stalking inside of a library. And by the way, what I captured yesterday on G Street at RAMADA by WYNDHAM is already exposing what OVITT Family Community Library is engaging in, because the fake sun's already been here while I was walking on G Street yesterday at the same time. These are the demons that are engaging what is stalking, meaning they are inherently behind intellectually. They are also inherently behind as demons who are under my feet. Okay? Christ has already defeated death. That's what this is. These are walking dead people. And they're already surrounded with a comprehensive body of evidence. And my public investigation of the United States government is being supplemented with what the federal government shall do. They shall do their job. They're going to be forced to do it. It's going to happen. It's already happening. Okay? The entities engaged in what is covering up the fake sun because they're working from behind. That's why. Okay? You're not looking at the evidence on a minute-by-minute basis. You are looking at both the evidence on a minute-by-minute basis and also with regard to what's already on the record. In other words, there is no escaping what you're already caught doing. The sun never should have been over my head on G Street, showing that the city of Ontario, i.e. the state of California, is targeting Erica Lorraine Spencer, who has a lot to testify about regarding what is sex acts committed against her, what is theft committed against her, and the entity that's been engaged in what is obstruction of justice, trying to silence me, trying to steal from me, and trying to kill me at the same time. And that's relevant to demons pacing in and out as employees of the OVITT Family Community Library at the administration door while they are targeting activity where I'm at inside of that venue. It's currently 1:50 p.m. The entity's keeping the fake sun over the RAMADA by WYNDHAM as I arrive, and I capture images of it over my head at 2:44 p.m., mindful of what's happening at 1555 East Hope Boulevard at the same time, where the sun's not over the Hope Boulevard United States Postal Service, over my head in its zenith at the 1841 RAMADA, where the fake sun was over me in the morning, by the way, today, and also at the OVITT Family Community Library at 215 East C Street, where psychopaths who are engaged in pedophilia and engaged in trying to conceal pedophilia, the sex trafficking ring that the families and the community that are gang stalking at this venue are engaging in what is targeting me, failing in uncovering that up. This same venue committed kidnapping on more than one occasion, specifically June 16, 2022. All right, you're going to federal prison for that while they are still engaging in domestic terrorism. Everything pursuant to the elements of monitoring is that which the entity is doing to accomplish psychological torture, to obstruct justice, to deter documentation, to silence an American citizen that they're seeking to murder. It is no small thing at all. And the entity's disdain and the lack of respect for the laws in this country is going to be met with what is nothing less than federal prison. So you're going from the family community library to prison. And you're going from the U.S. as a gang-stalking immigrant to wherever your homeland is or wherever President Trump finds it fit to place you. Honestly, as a terrorist, it's no American citizen, no targeted individual's concern, especially while you want to cry about how you're being deported out of this country, while you're engaging in what is gang-stalking people, sex trafficking them as an entity, conspiring their murder as an entity, psychologically torturing them, and then you don't like how you're being deported. That is no American citizen, no targeted individual's concern. The concern is that you're out of this country. All right, it is currently 1:52 p.m. This is the entity that's engaging in targeting, as the evidence has already proven. And as I'm documenting sex offenders that engage in what is harassment inside of the bathroom, ongoing amplified boom inside of the bathroom, because a bunch of sex offenders are hostile because they're being shown to be what? They are sex offenders. That's P.O.C. It's 1:52 p.m. This is actually a clean phone. This is residue from after I washed it off, just so that you know. I'm turning on the phone. This is documentation showing how the use of the Google. I'm turning on the internet. How the use of the creation of a Google account rather does not require, number one, it does not require a phone number to do so. Sorry, I'm trying to close this. And number two, even when complying with the request for a phone number, the initial entry of the phone number, it results in receiving an actual verification message from Google. But after the first time, it is then there is a superficial means of blockage. This is criminal monitoring. This is federal stalking on devices, and this is one of the tactics of the entity that is interested in particularly blocking the creation of a Google account, because that's what I am using to publish evidence in a public investigation of the United States government. Okay, so that's relevant for obstruction of justice, and it's a documented pattern of conduct. I did already request for the message to be sent, and so this is documentation I want to capture in video. Everybody around me is monitoring right now. They're all gang stalking. Okay, I captured the entity with the fake sun, and the Google code is verified. It goes through. Okay, and this is however, this is not required to create a Google account. And this is what is the entity is trying to block my ability to create a Google account. This is relevant to criminal monitoring. As you can see, the first time I put it in, it operates, and the phone number is accepted. What I've documented before, these are all criminals, they're all monitoring. This is gang stalking inside of the OVITT Family Community Library at 215 E.C. Street, where the fake son was still present as a matter of documentation on the phone. I just went outside not too long ago. A bunch of homosexual violent offenders engaging in monitoring in a bathroom on behalf of the government. So I will remind you about that documentation as well. It's all relevant regarding the P.O.C. as I remain subject to it in the specific environment, and the entity that's maintaining the ongoing surveillance on the video of the internet. This is the documentation showing the fake son at the same OVITT Family Community Library at 6:26 p.m. Okay, this is what I captured, and when I arrived, the entity has the fake son over the same entrance. Okay, this is at 2:44 p.m. where I'm reminding you about the fake son being at 2:44 p.m. over the top of my head at the same time at the 1841 East G Street, RAMADA by WYNDHAM, which I documented because I maintain documentation on a daily basis. And at 2:44 p.m., I will remind you about what I captured at the same time. The fake sun in that same position over the top of my head at RAMADA by WYNDHAM. This was captured at 2:44 p.m. as I'm capturing evidence of an entity stalking under a fake sun, where the entity is indeed engaged in what is sexual violence, such as monitoring genitalia in a bathroom amongst what are homosexual women, and amongst the entity that brings children into that space to share in activity creation where you are monitoring. This is relevant to also monitoring on devices. Okay, so this is the same venue, and they are also monitoring on the venue of the internet. The entity is doing so on what is the Wi-Fi. Okay, Ontario Wi-Fi is engaged in federal stalking, and this is the entity that engages in what is blocking the ability to create a Google account, and that's relevant to, again, the psychopaths that are monitoring on the venue of the internet with the intent to obstruct justice while they're conspiring murder while gang stalking. This is why you're going to prosecute and legislate in the ways in which I have advocated, in which justice requires. This is documentation of Title 18 federal stalking. It's currently 7:20 p.m. This is criminal monitoring that's on the venue of the internet. This is P.O.C.